If you're a business owner preparing for maternity leave, you've probably heard advice like, make sure you save a ton of money, or just batch all your work ahead of time, or be prepared to take a pay cut. But what if I told you that following this advice actually makes the months leading up to your leave more stressful, and it keeps your business dependent on you? Most entrepreneurs believe that if they want to take maternity leave, they have to work nonstop before their leave, put their business on hold, and accept a significant pay cut. And while many women take this approach, there's a better way. Pregnancy is the perfect opportunity to make your business stronger. When done right, you can step away, still get paid, and even see your business grow while you're bonding with your baby. Hi, I'm Christina Hall, six-figure business owner and mom of two. I've taken 2 very different maternity leaves as an entrepreneur. The first time, I worked round the clock trying to prepare my business, but in the end, it still relied heavily on me. The second time, I built systems and a team, and my business actually grew while I was gone, and I've helped countless other entrepreneurs do the same. This is a first episode in a 3-part series where I'm breaking down the 9 biggest maternity leave myths that keep pregnant business owners feeling overwhelmed, stuck, and worried about their income. And today, I'm tackling the first 3 myths, which include why batching everything before your leave is actually a mistake, the truth about saving money, and how to make sure your income doesn't take a hit while you're away. By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how to start preparing for maternity leave in a way that feels sustainable, stress-free, and profitable. And to make it even easier, I created a 6-step plan to a profitable maternity leave. It's a free resource that walks you through the exact steps to set up your business to run without you while still bringing in revenue. Just click the link in the show notes to grab it. All right, let's dive in. Myth number 1, I have to batch all of my work before my leave and then put my business on hold. All the time, I see posts where women say, all right, I'm going to be MIA for the next few months while I take a maternity leave. See you in 3 months. It's as if they don't even consider the possibility of setting up their business to run without them. They're so used to doing it all by themselves that the thought of hiring someone else seems impossible. The problem with this model is that you lose time, and in entrepreneurship, speed is so important. Also, your existing clients are not being served, and you're not able to make money while you're on leave. And you're still going to have expenses to take care of, so that's kind of a problem. So I don't think this is the best option. Now, there is another variation of this. Some women batch everything ahead of time and just hand off the bare minimum to a team member or VA, and then they take their leave. And this is exactly what I did for my first maternity leave. And it worked to some extent. However, the business didn't grow. I was able to cover our business expenses, but I wasn't able to pay myself a dime. Luckily, we were able to rely on my husband's income, but it still wasn't ideal. Plus, when I returned from my maternity leave, I returned to a business that still required 60 plus hours a week from me in order to grow and be profitable. And now I had the added pressure of taking care of my baby. So I didn't want to continue working those hours anymore. So now when I prepared for my second maternity leave, I did things very differently. Instead of focusing on just the get by approach, I focused on scaling my business in a way where it could grow and be profitable while I was on leave. I refined my hiring funnel, and I began hiring based on our mission and values. This is the key to finding those exceptional hires. You have to start with your mission and values. And if you're not already clear on your mission and values, spend some time figuring those out. I also improved how I onboarded and trained new team members, and that allowed me to really begin trusting them because I was giving them the tools they needed to succeed. Instead of doing everything myself, I started creating systems and documenting everything. That made it easy for my team to take on those responsibilities, and all I had to do was oversee things. And setting all of this up, building the team, creating the systems, this is what allowed me to take a 4-month maternity leave where the business grew, was profitable. And when I did work, because I did work a little bit during my leave, but it wasn't out of necessity. It was because I wanted to. When I had a free moment and I wanted to kind of work on a project, I was able to do that. And it was something that I enjoyed. It wasn't something that I had to stress about. And that's the kind of freedom you want to create for yourself. And that comes from scaling your business, not just let me batch everything, put the business on hold, or let me batch everything and just hand off the bare necessities. It's creating that sustainable business that can grow in your absence. And that takes me to myth number 2, which is I need to save tons of money before my maternity leave. Now, I want to be very clear. There's nothing wrong with saving money before your leave. I honestly believe we should always be saving money. It's a really good habit to get into. However, it shouldn't be all that you focus on. There's a delicate balance here. Now, if you're multitasking right now, I want you to stop what you're doing and listen closely. Saving money shouldn't come at the expense of your growth. Even to this day, I struggle with this. Sometimes when we focus too much on cutting expenses in order to save, we actually hold our business back. I go through these phases where I think I need to cut back, so maybe I'll hire a less qualified candidate to save money, or I really want to work with this coach, but I can't afford to spend that money right now. This automation tool would save me hours every week, but that's all right. I can do without it. That way I save money. And in almost every case, those investments would have made me far more money than what they cost. Like the right coach can help you 4x or 5x your business. The right automation tool could save you hours each week, meaning that you could spend that time on higher value tasks. Or the right team member could help you grow your business or free up your time so you can again focus on those higher value tasks. So yes, be mindful of your expenses. We don't want to spend frivolously. But also recognize when an investment will actually give you more freedom, time, and revenue. This shift is so important because relying on savings means your money has an expiration date. Once it runs out, you're back to square one. You also may feel pressure to go back to work sooner. And then the biggest thing is you're not actually making your business stronger. You're just pausing everything only to restart the hustle cycle later. But when you build predictable revenue streams, increase profit margins, and make smart investments, you're creating a business that gives you true freedom. And as I go through the next myth, I'm going to share with you how I created those predictable revenue streams and increased profit margins. So let's dive right into that. So myth number 3 is I have to take a pay cut during my leave. And this was something I struggled with big time. As I mentioned before, when I took my first maternity leave, my business covered my expenses, the business expenses, but I wasn't able to pay myself anything. We had to rely on my husband's income. And this was because my income was directly tied to the hours I worked. I was stuck in this cycle of trading time for money, and it worked, but as soon as I wanted to adjust my schedule so I could spend more time raising my children, I realized I wasn't going to make enough money to sustain our way of living. So I had to change the business model for more consistent passive income. So the first thing I focused on was gradually phasing myself out of teaching. So for those of you that are new to the podcast, I own a music school. I still own it, and I run both the music school and this business. But because the business virtually runs without me, I am able to put more of my time and energy into this business. But when I was going on my first maternity leave, those months leading up to it, I was teaching 6 days a week. I taught the majority of the students, I want to say probably about 95% of the students at the time. So I had to gradually phase myself out of teaching. When I returned from my first maternity leave, I taught 5 days a week. So that was down from 6. And then the following year, I cut down to 3 days, then 2 days, then 1 day. And this school year that's actually wrapping up in the next couple months will be the first school year that I didn't teach. And I've been home every night with my family, able to have family dinners. It's so wonderful because when my daughter was in her first year of life, besides the weekend, I wasn't home at night for family dinners. It was always my husband and my daughter alone, which I didn't like. I wanted to be home for a family dinner, especially because we wanted more children. And I did this slowly because, one, I had built all of these wonderful relationships with my students and their parents. And I didn't want to just be like, see ya, I'm handing you off to another teacher. I wanted to take most of my students through their senior year of high school and get them ready for college. So it worked out well because as students would graduate, then I was able to keep the remaining students and consolidate all of them into fewer days. And I just did that year over year. It took about 5 years for me to completely phase myself out of teaching. At the same time, the other reason why I did this gradually was because I was the one generating the majority of the revenue. I needed to kind of transition that slowly into having the people on my team generating the majority of the revenue. So the business wasn't so reliant on me. Then at the same time, as I was phasing myself out of teaching, I began hiring more teachers and building up their roster of students. Another major shift that I made is I switched from a pay per lesson model, which created a lot of inconsistencies in our revenue, and switched to a membership model. And this created so much more consistency. So people just paid a fixed amount per month, and that would cover all of their lessons for the month. I also increased our profit margins by cutting unnecessary expenses and raising prices. So I just became really brutal, like printed off our P&L, went through each expense and was like, okay, do we need this? Yes. If we do, is there a more affordable option? Can I call this company and negotiate a better rate? And then by also raising prices, all of this increased our profit margins, which allowed me to pay myself without having to teach a ton of hours a week and work 60 plus hours a week. Another great thing that I did with my second maternity leave was I just set up an automatic transfer from the business account to my personal checking account so that I was paying myself weekly, just like as if I was getting a paycheck. So the number one thing I want you to take away from with regards to this myth is don't allow yourself to think so small that you have to take a pay cut. You don't have to take a pay cut. This is your business. You're the one who is taking the risk. There's so much risk involved being an entrepreneur, and you should be rewarded for that risk. Your income shouldn't be directly tied to the amount of time you work. Your business is an asset, and you should treat it as such. All right, let's quickly recap the 3 maternity leave myths that are keeping you overworked and underpaid. So myth number 1, I have to batch all my work before my leave and then put my business on hold. No, batching alone isn't enough. Instead of just trying to get by during leave, set up systems, delegate responsibilities, and build a team that keeps running things without you. Myth number 2, I need to save tons of money before my maternity leave. Please don't do this. Saving is great, but it's not the whole strategy. Instead of relying only on savings, focus on creating predictable revenue and set up a business model that sustains itself long term. And myth number 3, I'll have to take a pay cut during my leave. Again, no, your income doesn't have to be tied to your time. Shifting to recurring revenue, increasing profit margins, and phasing yourself out of the daily operations will allow you to continue paying yourself without sacrificing your time with your baby. All right, now that you know these myths aren't serving you, I want you to take a moment and ask yourself, what's one change I can start making today to set my business up for a profitable, stress-free maternity leave? Whatever it is, take that step now, or put it on your to-do list if you're in the middle of something right now. And if you're wondering how to actually put this all into action, my free resource, the 6-step plan to a profitable maternity leave, walks you through the exact steps I use to step away from my business while still making money. Grab it now using the link in the show notes. And don't forget, this is just part 1 of a 3-part series. In the next episode, I'll be breaking down 3 more maternity leave myths that are keeping business owners stuck. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. All right, that's all for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.